It was love, they were looking for awakening of their soul. It's live tonight. Search for it all their lives, imagining what it was like.
Hello and welcome. My name is Melissa Rabronia. I am a trauma-sensitive healing practitioner, educator, and host at healyourheart.love. And today's guest is Lisa Erickson. Lisa Erickson is an energy worker specializing in women's energetics, sexual trauma healing, chakra manifestation, and kundalini awakening. She is the author of Chakra Empowerment for Women, wonderful book published by Llewellyn Worldwide. Lisa is certified in mindfulness meditation instruction and trauma sensitivity, and has trained in a variety of energy healing and somatic modalities. She is a member of the Breathe Network, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting holistic healing and healers for sexual trauma survivors. For more information on Lisa's work, go to enlightenedenergetics.com. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So today's topic is twin flames. It's a hot topic, as you know. There's a bunch of stuff out there. I remember in one of your classes, you said, jokingly or not, don't get me started on twin flames. And I remember that. And I know that you are a trauma-sensitive energy healer and worker, and you're amazing. You're actually my first example of a trauma-sensitive healing practitioner. I remember noticing your sensitivity, your gentleness, your invitations. And I wondered, I wonder why Lisa said that. I thought, why not have a conversation with you about the topic?
Yeah, I think it is such an important topic. And really for me, because I work primarily with women, it has just arisen over the decades of doing that as a big part of our conditioning. The whole white knight in shining armor, there is the perfect one. When you meet the perfect one, your life is finally clicked into place.
Right.
And that's a lovely idea. And there are some people for whom meeting a particular partner does feel like the start of their life, right? For
Right.
most of us, love is a little bit more work and complicated, just as fulfilling, but it's not
Yes.
like that. And if that is the standard, it can cause a lot of issues. And I've seen it cause a lot of issues, including people staying in abusive relationships
Right.
because they believe they are supposed to, it's a contract that they must work through. So that is, and I've seen that more than once. And so that really is the personal experience that led me to
Mm,
be very concerned about it.
thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So my experience, I've had many relationships that I'm very grateful for. I'm still friends with a lot of my exes, and I'm so grateful that my husband doesn't mind.
Yeah.
And when I met him, I did feel this deeper feeling of something. And I think I jokingly even asked him, are you my twin flame? Just as a joke. And he said, no, because he's not into that.
Yeah.
But I remember being in a group. Somehow somebody added me to a group that was a twin flame group. It was some dating coach that just added me. And it was disturbing for me. Why? Because people were posting stuff like, my twin flame is getting married, and what should I do? And then that person would be encouraged to go and try to stop them marrying somebody else. And I thought that was insane. It just felt like really wrong. So I actually exited the group. It just felt like just out there, just not healthy, toxic, really. So I just left the group. So I met a friend through Facebook that I really connected with. And we jokingly said, oh, twin flames, but really, I think we might be part of the same soul family. It just feels like we just really understand each other. So I considered it, and I didn't really stick to it. It just didn't really speak to me. It seems extreme, and I can see how it can get people in trouble, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a beautiful idea or metaphor. Like when we feel a deep resonance for someone, I have no problem with saying, oh, this person is my twin flame, my husband's my soulmate, my partner's my soulmate, those kinds of words. When we don't really mean like this person is the only person in the world who completes me, and to be complete, I must be with that person. If it means that, that's when we get into trouble, right? I think just the idea, oh, I've met someone who I really resonate with, that using twin flame as a metaphor, I have no problem. I'll use it that way too. When someone uses those words with me, I'll be like, okay, what exactly does that mean to you, right? And if it just
Right.
means deep resonance, okay, right?
Right.
But if it veers into that, like, oh, this is like this contract between you and this person, you must be together. That is your destiny, and you do whatever it takes to be with that person. That's really problematic.
Yeah.
And what's so fascinating to me is I'm a longtime student of Eastern religions, which is where the idea of karma comes from. And these ideas do not come from those traditions. They
Mm.
are a New Age edition later. Some of them, like Soulmate, has some roots in Greek metaphors that Plato used, but it's not really based in any kind of long-term ancient deep wisdom of karma, and yet those teachings are sometimes used to support it, but it is not there. And I've never found anyone that was willing to say, oh yeah, this is a part of Buddhism or Hinduism, which are the main two traditions that teach.
Right. Exactly. I know that you have a lot of knowledge and experience in that field. And that is exactly why I wanted to have you for this conversation. So let
Yeah,
me just ask you straight up, Lisa. So do you believe in twin flames? Is that
no,
a thing? Okay.
not as that we each have someone out there that completes us. That's, no, no.
So twin flames, according to you, does not exist. It's not a thing.
No, not if that's the definition. Yep.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that. So what do you believe in
Mm.
for those people that are still, yeah, but this person is so special and there's a deep resonance?
Yeah. We have different resonances. To me, they would be different karmas that come up at different points in our life. So we could even talk about it over the span of our life. If you'd met your current husband when you were 20, would you have felt that resonance? Or is the resonance you felt a product of who you both are now? I mean, we'll never know.
Right.
Has your capacity to love changed? Both of you. You're at a different place in life. And that is what creates this deeper resonance. I mean, there's so many things that go into it. But really, when we feel that deeper resonance, there's something there for sure. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
Platonic and romantic, there's certain people you feel an immediate pull to.
Mm-hmm.
That we could say maybe if we believe in past lives, and I do believe in past karmic streams, past lives.
Right.
It's a little complicated, but yeah, so there could be a memory there.
Mm-hmm.
There could be positive associations there. All of that I'm okay with, and I can get on board with. And that's part of that deeper resonance. That's very different. It's a whole nother step to take it to this person completes me. It's the only other person I could ever feel that with.
Right.
And because love is so complex, and a lot of the journey of relationship is sorting out what is need, what is dependency, and what is love, you can be, if some deep need is fulfilled by the other person, when you're young, that's what love is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And as you get older, you're like, oh, that was actually almost like a codependency or an addiction. That wasn't love. But that's the journey of love, that maturing. So it's very hard to say just because you feel that resonance that that person is someone you're meant to be with, no matter what.
Right. And what would you say to people that are having a hard time, like once they break up with somebody, they have a hard time letting them go,
Yeah.
whether it's like they're obsessively thinking about them? What is that?
I mean, breakups are hard. I think there's very few people that don't at some point in their life have at least one breakup.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah.
It is hard, and I help many, many people through breakups of various types. And, it really is like a death. It's a loss.
Yeah.
There's so many layers to it in terms of you've lost whatever you were getting from that person each day. You lost the feeling of companionship. You lost the dream of what you were going to build together. You've lost the lifestyle. Depending on your own sense of self, if you in the relationship maybe didn't yet have a strong sense of self, your sense of self may be so entwined with the other person that now them not being in your life, you actually don't know who you are. And so you're just grasping the other person. So there's layers of missing the person, needing to grieve all that's been lost, and also rediscovering who you are that make breakups, especially a breakup that you didn't choose, really, really hard. And there's, when someone dies, like we accept, there's this finality we have to accept, and we have to go through these phases of grief, maybe denial, depression, acceptance. The complication with a breakup is the person is still here. So it's easier to believe to not go through those painful things, grief, anger, etc., and just be like, no, I just have to get them back, right? That's the
Mhm.
answer. That's the answer. But there really is no system that talks about karma or why we're here. There's no spiritual system that doesn't allow for free will. So if one person is choosing not to be in the relationship, uh,
Yeah.
that's the problem with twin flames. It seems to be saying there's no free will. This person is supposed to be with you. They don't know it yet. So
Yeah.
just keep reminding them. It's like you're denying their free will. And I haven't found any spiritual system that really says, oh, we have no free will. Not a single one.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to me that that somehow got locked into this idea.
We have to respect people's yeses and people's nos,
Yeah,
right? So if somebody is telling you that they don't want to be with you,
yeah,
it's so important to respect that
yeah,
and not fight it, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And the bigger picture, I think, is like you have to kind of come to terms with what do I believe in terms of free will versus things feeling like they're meant to happen. And I think it isn't so straightforward. We have these branches where if we take this step, this decision, it's going to lead us this way. We take this decision, it's going to take us this way. And it's not at every crossroads, there's a right and a wrong. There's a predestined and there's the wrong choice. That's sort of what the twin flames sets up, right? Like this
Mhm.
idea, if you lose this twin flame, that's it. There's no love for you ever. It's a mistake that cannot be corrected, right?
Yeah.
But that isn't really anyone's experience of life, and it doesn't align with any spiritual teachings.
It sounds like a recipe for
Yeah, when you really
disaster.
lay it out like that, right? Like
Yeah.
if there's no free will,
Yeah.
like my life is just I have to make it work with this person no matter what, right? Doesn't really
Yeah.
make any sense.
No, it doesn't. People are looking for love.
Yeah.
And watching those documentaries, what was interesting to me is do searches of, looking for love, how to find love. When people come to you looking for love,
Yeah.
how do you handle that?
Well, first, I just want to acknowledge, the CDC, I think just last year came out, or no, the Surgeon General came out with the announcement that the latest pandemic is loneliness.
Mm,
That the level of loneliness across all age groups has increased exponentially in the last decade. And yes, the pandemic contributed, but it was already in the works long before the pandemic. Is it social media? Is it our fears around, that it doesn't feel as safe as much to be out? What is, it's a combination of factors. But we have to just address the loneliness that so many people feel. And then in that loneliness, it feels like even more like the answer is one person. But studies in happiness show us it's actually not about one person. It is about just feeling as if you have people in your life you connect with. That is that's the number one factor in happiness studies, right?
yeah.
So it's really about a sense of connection. And so we need to focus when we're feeling that longing for love. One of the first steps is like, okay, what level of connection do you have in your life? Do you have friends? What is your relationship to your family? Do you have fulfilling connection in your life? Let's start there to make sure that you haven't hooked onto the idea of love as the only answer, romantic love. So
Hmm.
I think that's first. And sometimes people have social anxiety or social challenges that are preventing them from connecting. And so then they've really, instead of working on those, they are fixated on the idea of when I find the one, I'll just always feel like I belong, always feel whole, always feel loved, always feel supported.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. I think then the second thing is, it sounds cliche. we often use love to self-medicate, or what we think of as love to self-medicate what we feel is lacking in ourselves. And so we really have to look at, how do I feel about myself? Do I feel as if when I meet the right person, that's going to all of a sudden make me feel worthy or deserving or supported? And if so, we need to work on first feeling those things for ourselves without anyone else, not getting them from anyone else. So essentially self-love.
Yeah,
You have to
absolutely.
self-love, which is, this word we throw around a lot, but very hard. What does it really mean to value yourself? And then after that, then I'm willing to say, okay, we want to start. I do believe in energy. I do believe in the power of intention and energy work. It's what I do. So then it's like, what do you want to feel with the person you're with? And instead of being like, I want them to have a sense of humor and I want them to be tall and I want them to be, I like brunettes, like instead of this kind of list, which is
Mm,
fine. I don't mind those lists, but I prefer to work like, how do you want to feel? Right?
yeah,
What does this person make you feel like when you're with them? And it's like, I feel valued, I feel heard, I feel light and joyful, I feel safe. And there's most of these words we're all going to want to feel, but it's kind of like the top three that come to you are really important because they're really telling you what you need the most.
mhm.
On the one hand, it points you to work you might still need to do within yourself, but it's also about, those are the qualities you want in this other person. And that's much more important than how tall they are, or
Yes.
what their job is, or that kind of stuff.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's interesting. I used to believe that, oh, there's somebody for everyone. That's what we're conditioned to believe with all these movies and romantic films. And I've come to believe now that love is always speaking to us, and it comes in different forms. Like, for example, I feel I'm grateful that I have romantic love, that it came into my life. I actually was never really looking for it. And when I first moved to LA, I was single for 3 years and I was having the time of my life for the first time in my life since the age of 17. And I was willing to stay that way forever. But then I recognized that this person that I met, it was a deeper connection. So I wasn't going to ignore it. So it's almost like I was bowing to love in this form. And through that, there's other types of loves that came into my life, like having my dog and then now having 2 dogs. So it's like love is coming into my life in different forms. And I believe that as we work on ourselves and we are healthy with ourselves, the way we are, like secure attachment, then companions along the way, whether it's pets, people, romantic partners, best friends, will come along the way and they'll just make sense as part of your journey. They will add to your life. And I think that we are very couple centric or romantic couple centric in our society, which does not represent the reality of what's really going on for people.
Yeah, I love that line that you said, love speaking to us in all these different forms. Yeah, and it's so true. We are so couple centric. And, it's so funny. In one day of sessions, I can have one person who's saying to me, oh, I really need to meet someone that's the only thing that's going to make me happy. And I'll be working with someone else who's going through a horrific divorce, right?
Right, right, yeah.
And it's just like, you just want to say to both of them, okay, the grass is
Right, yeah,
it's
yeah.
not easy. The grass is not greener. There's just no guarantees. And so it's always about focusing on love in your life, how it's
Hmm.
showing up for you, what's there, who's
Hmm.
there in your life and if there is no love, work with that. What's available? Your cat? Start there, right?
Yes.
A
Yep.
friendship that has been superficial, but you feel like there could be more, but you've been afraid to try.
Hmm.
Well, try. You can,
Hmm.
working towards that. And connection and love in however it's showing up. And again, these happiness studies show this to us over and over. Getting married is not a guarantee of happiness. Having children is most definitely not a guarantee of happiness. It's actually does not increase
Absolutely.
happiness. It does not increase happiness at all. So all of these things we're sort of conditioned to think this is what's going to make you happy. It isn't automatic. You
Right.
have to be really focused on the quality of your life now and being present with it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do
Yeah.
you believe in soulmates?
No, and I think they're pretty much thrown around the same way.
Yeah.
For you, what is the difference? I know that some people distinguish it.
Yes.
I'd love to hear how you distinguish it. Because to me, I read it and I'm like, I think they're really just talking about the same
Right.
thing.
So I guess my understanding, twin flame, there's just one. Soulmate, I've heard this, shared before, that we all have a bunch of different soulmates. So that just feels a little more like flexible. Soulmate is maybe somebody that you feel a certain resonance or depth, or maybe like even a knowing, like kind of like what I felt with my husband. I felt like, oh, this is something deeper. I've had that before, maybe on some level, but I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But I knew that it was something deep. So maybe I have some exes, like that was a type of soulmate, but I wasn't meant to stay with them. I don't know. That's how I sort of see it.
Yeah. I mean, in that sense, I can be okay with soulmates because it's almost just like another way of saying, oh, we have karma with certain people.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, it certainly feels that way. It does feel like with certain people, you're just really working through something together, or you come together for some purpose sometimes, not even just romantic. It can be a work partner or a creative project partner, and it just feels bigger than what you could have thought out in your head or planned out in your head. It's like it happens, you come together, and what you create or what you experience is bigger than that, or the connection that you have. So in that sense, I can get behind soulmates if it really means kind of that, like we have this special resonance, this special karma. I just think there's free will is happening at every stage. So it isn't sort of preordained. You have these 6 soulmates that you're going to encounter. It's like, oh, there's hundreds out there that you have resonance
Right.
with. But if you take this right turn when you're 10, it leads to this left turn when you're 20. It determines which subset you're going to meet, or this. And we really just have certain streams that are flowing, but we're making choices all the time that are changing which stream, that determine which of those people we're going to run into and meet. So it isn't kind of this whole preordained thing. It's the preordained piece that always causes issues for me.
Right. So that's why you don't believe in soulmates either.
Yeah, from that perspective, because I was perceiving it as being this kind of preordained, you're going to meet that person no matter what. No, it's much more fluid than that. Your life could have taken some other turns, and you might have met someone else who you built this kind of love with. You'd be a different person because of the other experiences you had that led you to that moment. In any moment, we're such a product of what's happened before. This is the field of psychology, right?
Right.
So that's going to impact how you love and who you resonate with. So there's just so much that happens to us that leads us to a certain moment, that different choices might have led you to someone else.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm glad that you're sharing that, because I am interested in how you see all these things. So let me ask you this. How would you then explain to people that maybe have a magical story of how they met and the universe kept putting them together, or they were on the plane and then, there's all kinds of stories of like they were destined to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for some people that's actually true. Like the karmas are so strong. So I just
Right.
think more variation than we allow for. I do think there can be beings who almost like decided, whether we say it's a past life or between lives, whatever you believe in, 2 souls, 2 beings, karmas, but there really is like there's such a strong pull. That's it. Rosalind Carter just died, right? We look at Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, and what was it, 77 years? And they met so young,
Yeah.
and their lives just so defined each other. It's like it does feel like that was just this. It does almost feel like a contract, like they came in. So I'm not saying that never happens. I just am saying that's not the default. It's one kind of life, one kind of karma that not all of us have.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Makes
And
sense.
that's not a bad thing, and it doesn't invalidate the love you have to say to not have that kind of predestination feeling. I think that's where it sometimes gets troubling. People almost feel like it's invalidating their love if it doesn't have that feeling or didn't have that magical start. If it was
Yeah.
just an average story.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about on this topic?
You mentioned attachment at one point. We haven't really gotten into attachment theory. You feel like that is interesting in this case, right? Because when we look at attachment theory, if you have an anxious attachment, you may be more likely to be attracted to an avoidant type, and it keeps triggering your anxious attachment, right? So you have this dynamic playing out. So we have these patterns that are instilled in us in childhood. That's the idea based on our initial connections that we make. Or some people might say, oh, I think it starts even before that. It's the stress we experienced in the womb, or it's past lives, or it's ancestral. I think there can be a lot of different histories. And then that is really what's driving who you meet and how you relate to them. So until you've worked through that, how can you even be talking about something like twin flames or soulmate, right?
Right. Yeah.
Working through psychological patterns that developed in this lifetime, right? And they're clouding the way that you interact. So that is so much of our initial relationships, I think, is working through all of that.
That makes sense.
And so then I think the other thing that, I've just seen is because I work with so many abuse survivors, different kinds of abuse, and the way that that dovetails with trauma and the way that puts someone at risk potentially for codependency and unhealthy attachments. And so if they then believe those unhealthy attachments are their twin flame or their soulmate, that's when there's a setup for someone to believe they are supposed to keep putting up with abuse because
Yeah.
that's serving the greater good of this spiritual relationship, which is in fact just two damaged human beings playing out trauma,
Yes.
a trauma bond.
Absolutely. The healthier you are, the
Yeah.
healthier your relationships will be, right?
Yeah.
A question that I have is when there's strong feelings about somebody, it's interesting. I was just helping a friend who went through a breakup and he's having a hard time. There's this feeling that that was something special or desire for it to be special. How do we explain those strong feelings?
Mm.
When you can't let go of somebody, or I have another friend who's in a new relationship and he shared that he's still thinking about another ex previously. So he's like, why am I still thinking about her?
I mean, what I usually do is go down kind of the line of inquiry of what do you miss and really trying to get specific about it, because then you really discover what is it in you, what need or desire in you was being met by that person that somehow you feel like can't be met by anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And usually you discover some inner work there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, sometimes there's just going to be this person felt perfect to you. They don't feel the same way.
Right.
And getting over that, those are the hardest kind of breakups. And
Right.
it really is like a death. And there's nothing to do but kind of grieve the dream that died,
Yeah.
like when someone dies, and move through anger, denial, acceptance, whatever the stages are for you to the other side. I think people will stop themselves from moving through those stages. With death, it's so final that you have to.
Yes.
Breakup, sometimes someone will stop themselves from moving through those stages. And so you also have, that's where I would also go to, okay, why have you felt grief? What have you felt since this breakup? Sometimes there's been all this energy put into trying to figure out what happened. And all they've done for 6 months is ruminate on how could they have prevented the breakup.
Mm,
And then there actually hasn't been any sort of moving through the emotions,
right.
the stages to get to a place of acceptance. So sometimes that's the stuck point too.
Right.
So it's really like, what do you miss would be the first question. And then the second line of questioning would be, what have you been feeling since the breakup? What have you been doing? And if all they've been doing is thinking, why did they break up with me? And if I'd done this, would it have been different? And,
Right.
that kind of thing, then trying to get beyond that.
Absolutely. If somebody doesn't want to be with you or is broken up with you, they are not perfect for you.
Right.
Like they cannot be perfect for you.
Yeah.
So we have to let them go.
And sometimes people do come back. It's interesting. My husband and I did break up for a period of time, and that's not unusual.
Mm-hmm.
But really, when that happens, you have to let go, because when you come back together, it has to be new and chosen. You can't
Yes.
sort of manipulate or harangue someone or just bug someone until they give in and come back to you. This is not a healthy restart. To have a healthy restart, you have to actually have let go of what you had, and something new has to start. So either way, you have to let go.
Absolutely, yeah. Any final words around the topic, twin flames, real or not? I guess we're together coming to the conclusion it's not real. What would you like to tell people that are out there, or maybe that are susceptible to these communities that promote twin flames being a real thing?
Yeah. The questions would be really, what connection do you have in your life? Do you have other kinds of connection? And what support do you have around increasing connection in your life?
Yeah.
Right. And start there. And then what is it that you are hoping your twin flame is going to make you feel? How and is are any can you meet any of those needs yourself? Right? Like, are you putting everything on this outside the moment you're going to meet this outside person to create this perfect reality? Instead, do you need instead of support in meeting someone new, do you actually need support around meeting some of those needs for yourself? It's interesting, you said you were not looking to get married and you met your husband.
Hmm.
I was kind of the same. I was sort of on the fence about whether I wanted to be married. And so I've seen this happen a lot. When someone lets go, they meet someone. Now, I'm not saying that's always the case and people shouldn't try and people shouldn't date, because I've also known people that are like, I'm meeting someone this year. They set that intention. They dated 30 people and eventually met someone. So that approach can work. I'm not saying not to do that ever, but I have seen more than that. I've seen people who sort of, when they let go and they were focused on being happy in the life they had, there's something natural and organic came to them or arrived in their life. And then
Hmm.
the love is not needy and graspy, and there isn't all this pressure on it because
Yeah.
you're okay in your life.
Yeah.
Choice. I really think marriage, for example, is a lifestyle choice. Monogamy is a lifestyle choice, not for everyone. So you really have to be conscious about that and intentional about, is it what you want?
Absolutely. That makes sense. Well, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Melissa. It's been great to
Always,
talk to you.
always lovely to have you. Yay.
Love, much love.
Much love.
Looking for love.